Hey everybody, today I am making a coffee scoop. Now the reason I'm doing this is we are quickly approaching Valentine's Day and flowers are always a good choice, but this blank has flowers in it, so it's a good choice for something that's fairly functional. What I'm going to do is take this blank, use our coffee scoop kit, it's an all stainless steel kit, along with the brass insert and the universal mandrel to make this project. So to make this, I'm going to use the universal mandrel. This is a really cool mandrel setup that we get from the stainless steel bottle stopper guys. And I just want to tell you a quick bit about it. So this goes onto your lathe. This is a 1" by 8, threads right onto your lathe. And this, as it sits, fits about 5 or 6 of our project kits. So it's really cool. And the really cool part of this is the universal part is we have these bushings that they make for us. And these fit all the rest of our project kits, and you just slide it on just like a pen mandrel, fitting the bushing for your kit. So with this one setup and 3 bushings, you can turn any project in the house. Now what I need to do is glue in this brass insert, and I've drilled my blank out. It's a 1/2 inch hole, and it's about 0.66 I think deep. And what I like to do is put the insert on the universal mandrel. This just kind of gives me a handle to hold it, make sure everything fits good. It's a snug fit, so you can see I can push it in. And that way, before I glue it, I can test fit it. So pull that out, and I'm just going to epoxy this in. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the coffee scoop is the threads actually go in deeper than the brass insert. So if I only drilled my hole the depth of the brass insert, my coffee scoop will be sticking out. So what I did first was I drilled a hole 1 inch deep, which is the entire length of the threads, and it was a 25/64 drill bit into the blank. Then I drilled the 1/2 for the insert. So now I'm ready to go. I can epoxy that in. So what I'm going to do is mix up some epoxy. I'm using mercury 5-minute. If you need more time, you can go with a 15 or a 30. I actually want to turn this today, so I'm going to go with the 5-minute. I'm just putting equal parts, or as equal as I can eyeball, on this. I'm going to stir it up. This epoxy is a little more forgiving than like a casting epoxy, but you do want to try to get it equal parts. Now, while that sits for a sec, I like to use, like I said, I like to use the mandrel kind of as a holder. So I'm going to put the insert on it. And I want this insert inserted flush to the end of the blank. I don't want it to stick out, and I don't want it to be undercut, because then it's going to be harder to turn to the finished product, the finished size. All right. Now, I just get a little bit on my stick. I'll put it inside the hole and smear that around. I don't want a lot of extra, so I'll use the stick to clean the end. And then I'll put some on here. Now, you must be careful not to get it over the end where your threads are. You don't want to glue the insert to the mandrel. And there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in there, so you don't want a ton of extra. So, now I'm ready to go. I can kind of wiggle this in here. Looks like I've got some extra. I'm just going to scrape that off before I push this in all the way. And I'm just using the mandrel to kind of fine tune it. Once it's there, I take the mandrel out. That's ready to go, and I'm just going to let that cure. All right, so we're back with our blank now. You can see that the epoxy has set, and it's nice and flush to the end. If you want, you can always test fit, and this way you can make sure that it lines up how you want it. That looks pretty good. And we are ready to go. So, the beauty of this universal mandrel, which I talked a little bit about, forever here. This universal mandrel has a bushing system. So you want to put it on your lathe. Always make sure you have a washer so you don't get it stuck. But you want to put it on your lathe and it is ready to go. So this is the basic bushing. It's basically the mandrel. And this happens to fit our coffee scoop perfectly, so we don't even really need a bushing. If we were making something larger like a bottle stopper or a pizza cutter, we would slide the bushing right over there and we'd be set. So we load, very simple, just thread the insert onto the mandrel. And as you can see, this blank has a little bit of a curve to it. So if I just started, it'd be out of round. Here, we'll show you. A little out of round. What I want to do is ease up my tailstock. I'm going to get it real close to the end here and I'm going to lock it. I'm going to start this kind of slow and I'm just going to ease my tailstock in to where it engages. So my tailstock's nice and engaged. If I push on it, it'll stop. I can tighten it up. And this will get me started. I'm going to up my speed to about 2,000 just to get this round. And I'm just going to take off the edges. And all I want to do here is take off the edges, make the blank round, and then I can go to my shaping. So you can see now it's starting to round. We've got our wood we're hitting here, the flowers we're cutting into them. Once I get this round, I'm going to get the whole thing straight and round, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of shape. Okay, so I've got it all round, or for the most part. I did lose one little chunk of flour there, but you know, that's kind of the nature of the beast when you're dealing with organic materials. The wood looks really good in there, so Kayla did a nice job picking wood that would flow well. So now I'm going to give it just a little shape. I'm going to taper the end here to my bushing. I'm going to round the end, and I'm going to probably give it just a little bit of a dip here and here for like fingers. Although you don't need a lot of grip with a coffee scoop, so you don't really even need to do that. But I'm going to shape it just a hair, and then we're going to sand it and polish it to a nice shine. I am going to do a CA finish on it because I want to seal in these flowers, and that'll be a nice way to fill that little void. I actually decided not to put any grooves in it. I just want the wood and the flowers to be the star. I tapered the front so that it meets the material meets the handle, and now I'm just going to round the end. And what's cool is I'm using my Easy Wood tools. I was using the finisher to shape it. Now I'm going to use the detailer, and I'm going to just come in here on the end, and right here you'll kind of see the end taper away. I'm just going to kind of round it with this little point. And it's okay that I struck the inside there because I'm going to actually take that off in just a sec. So now I've got a little roundness, and I can do more or less if I want. And that should be, once I clean up that very end, that should look good. And the reason I'm doing this is once this is polished, you can already see the flowers coming through. Once this is polished, it's going to look really cool having that rounded end. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, back up my rest here. And I like to eject my live center because I tend to hit my hand into it. So what is really great about this mandrel system is this part right here. Normally, I would never trust a handle or anything that it was threaded into the wood and turn this end, but this is so strong and sturdy that I'm not worried about it. Now, I am going to cover this just for a little bit of stability while I'm cutting into this end. So if you can you see the end here? Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to give this a little concave to get rid of my live center divot. And it'll kind of look cool with a little dip in the end. It'll give it a little more dimension because it's clear. And I had pushed that in pretty hard, my live center, so I just need to go till I get rid of that divot. And this thing is not moving at all. You can see even when I hit it, it is rock solid. All right, that is basically the shape I want. I'm going to put a quick thin CA seal on this, and then we're going to start sanding. So let me grab that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put a quick thin coat of mercury flex on. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to seal up these flowers and any open wood before I start to do any sanding. So I'm just going to turn this down. So putting my flex on, and this is going to shine it up, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to sand most of this off. We're just trying to get those flower petals sealed up. But this will kind of be a good preview of what this is going to look like. So now you can see, even though we need to sand it still, it's got a lot of. So now I'm going to sand this, and I've got I think this is either 600 or 800. I'm going to take off most of the CA because all I was trying to do was get it to soak in, and then I'm going to sand my tool marks out, any little imperfections. And I want to keep this wet because I want to keep it cool. I know I'm not holding it well for the camera. And I could turn this up a little bit, but this is fine. You want to keep your paper moving, keep it wet, not only to keep it cool, but to keep the debris off of the piece. You don't want it to scratch itself. Speed that up just a hair. And so I'm just going to sand this. It'll take a couple minutes, and it'll really level this off. It'll smooth it out, and then we will do a CA finish on it. So I've wet sanded this now. Like I said, I've sanded off most of the CA I put in. I was just going for the CA in the flowers. I'm going to use my air gun here. I'm going to turn down the speed a little bit, and I'm just going to blow this off. And ease into it. I just want to make sure the wood is dry, the flowers are dry, and even after I do this, I'll give it a couple minutes, because I want to make sure it's completely dry before I do the CA. Because next I'm going to do a CA finish and then sand and polish finish. Okay, so I'm going to do a CA finish. I'm using Mercury Flex Thin for this first round. And this is how I do pens, and so I'm going to go for it on this as well. You could drip it on there, but I'm just going to coat it. And all I'm doing is, with the thin, I just want it to soak into the wood, or into the flowers, any amount I can get. And then I'm going to switch to medium flex. In between coats, I'm going to give it a quick spray. And I like to let it spin for just a sec, but I can already feel that it's dry, so that's nice. And now I can go to my medium. And I'm just going to start here and apply. I'm not going to totally worry about the inside of the end because it's all resin. I'm going to just do mostly the surface here. Okay. Ready for the next one. And we'll do probably 4 or 5 coats is all. And we'll see how that looks. So this will be my last coat. It looks like it's built up really nicely. It's filled in all the voids of the flowers. And the reason I do a CA is, this is a kitchen item, so it could get wet. The CA will be a little more protective. And 2 is we have a transition from resin to wood. So even though the wood's stabilized, no matter how we sand it, we would still always have that little bit of a witness line. The CA will take that away. So this is my last coat. Make sure it's nice and flat. Spray it out. That one I used a little more spray because I want to make sure it's totally dry. And then I will let this spin. I'm going to turn it up. I will let this spin for just a few extra seconds. Okay, so now we're ready to do the final quick sand and polish. I'm going to use Zona paper. You can see that my CA is a little bit ripply, which is what I kind of go for, is like an orange peel. That way I know I've got a good buildup. I'm going to use my 800 wet to essentially sand out those ripples and those rotation marks. I'm going to sand it real slow running, and then I'm going to sand it horizontally by hand. So I want to keep this moving. I don't want to sand through my CA, which is the biggest problem that people have with a CA finish. So I want to do this when I think it's good. I'm going to stop it and then spot check it. So I've still got some lines there. So I might be able to just sand them out by hand. We'll see. If not, I'll turn the lathe back on. Yeah, a few more lines. So I'm going to run the lathe just a little more. Okay, so I am happy with this sanding. Now I'm going to go to my Zona paper. If you're not familiar with Zona paper, it's 6 grits instead of 9 like the traditional micro mesh. You cut little pieces out and essentially you wet sand it. Although you're not sanding, you're polishing. The Zona paper will not take out tool marks. It will not change shape. All it will do is make them shiny. So, ooh, no cramp. Turn this up just a hair. You gotta use the right side of it. So basically, same as the sandpaper, I'm gonna keep it moving. I don't wanna sit in one spot and let it get hot. I just want a nice polish. And with every grit, I should see my shine get a little better and a little better and a little better. Probably should have cleaned my water before this, but that's all right. All right, so I'm on my last Zona paper here. This is my 1 micron. And I just wanna really, this is the final step in the polishing. I typically now with Zona do not use any kind of plastic polish or any other compound. You're certainly able to, I just don't think it's necessary. This stuff looks really good when it's done. So once I'm done with the final and I'm happy with it, this is it for me. You can probably see that that is pretty darn clear. And our CA is nice and even. It's flat and smooth. So no issues there. So I do want to dry this. If I use a paper towel, I don't want to smear it. I just want to kind of pat it because I don't want to scratch it with my paper towel. This now, I've got some CA that is on the end here because it glues to the mandrel. What I'm going to do is take my number 1 grit and I'm just going to do this end and kind of smooth it out. The CA being over the end is okay because it's kind of a seal. I could go through all the grits, which maybe I'll do that off camera, I don't know, we'll see. But that makes it nice and smooth. And then I'm just gonna pat it dry. Let me grab the coffee scoop. And you could take a little more time with that end, make it look really good. But we are done. The flowers came out really good. The fit with using the universal mandrel fits really nice on the coffee scoop. And we got a really cool coffee scoop here. So hope you guys like this. The key to this project, obviously the universal mandrel is huge with the knurled insert. The coffee scoop is a nice stainless steel. And then of course this is a flower infused or cast blank by Kayla Cooper. And all this is available in our store and on our website. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.